Welcome to Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, back again with another episode. I got my special guest co-host with me, Michael. Today we're going to be talking about, in this episode rather, we're going to be talking about going all in for change, what that means, and how you can go about this process and bring meaningful change to your life. But before we get started, I'm going to let Michael say something, and then we're going to jump right on into it. Go ahead, Michael.
Good afternoon, everybody. Well, I'm glad to be back with you guys again. I'll start off by saying I read this quote yesterday when I was reading my scriptures, and it was talking about Jesus and forgiveness. And it was he said that when he forgives, he doesn't freeze us in time. And what he means by freezing us in time, by holding us accountable and holding us exactly where we were when we committed that sin or what we did. So it goes along with forgiveness.
It's a good one. I like that. So you saying that the interpretation of that is that we're not frozen in time in that moment. You know what I'm saying? Forgiveness means we can move beyond that moment, that time, that incident.
Exactly. And that's what we need society to do as a whole.
I wonder why they don't do that.
Because we're frozen in time. We are what we did that night.
Why is that?
It's hard to let it go.
It's hard to let it go. And I think that's for both sides. I think that's for society that has been offended, and I think it's for the individuals that the offenders, the perpetrators. You know, we have a hard time moving beyond what it is that we did, whatever choices that we make, right? But let's go in let's look a little bit deeper into this going all in for change. What does that mean to you, Michael?
For me, it's total commitment. You have to be committed to something because there is no in between. We spoke before about straddling the fence. You can't straddle the fence.
Right.
And as far as you going in with God, you can't straddle the fence. If you straddle the fence with God, you are on the side of Satan.
Right.
So there is no in between. So
no in between.
If you make that change, if you make that commit, you have to be committed, whole soul, wholly. And that's not just to do with religion. That's to do with anything. If you're making a commitment, it has to be complete.
Right.
You know, it's not a try. To me, trying is a failed effort. So you can't do that.
Yeah, dig that. Now, I'll say that for me, I agree with you on that, but for me, going all in means that you have to take the steps necessary, meaningful steps necessary to change the way you see the world. Because if you don't get that, and change the way you see the world, change your ideology, you're not going to get anything else. So with that said, let me give you a couple examples of what I mean when I say that you have to change the way you see the world. Before, I saw the world as, let's say, all the people that I saw, I felt like anybody at any time could be my victim. I didn't really care about what somebody else thought. As long as I was able to do what I wanted to do, I felt like it was cool. We had this saying when I was in rotation back in the day. And again, for the new people that don't know what I mean, when I say in rotation, that's when I was involved in gang activities. All of y'all that have been listening, appreciate y'all. Keep listening. You already know what that means. But when I was back in rotation, what that means, what we used to have a saying is the gangsters do what they want to, suckers do what they can. And that's how I approached life. I felt like I can do whatever I wanted to, whenever I wanted to, and regardless of what pain or destruction that it caused other people. But now, my view of the world is totally different. I want to be somebody that serves the Most High first, and then my family and my community. And until you realize that, until individuals that's involved in the lifestyle realize that, they're going to keep making the same mistakes. Now, you said, accepting God wholeheartedly in your life and all of these things, which I totally agree, right? But I would imagine you and I both know people that have done that or have appear to have done that in here, but then get out and go the opposite direction. Why do you think that is?
I don't think that they was deeply rooted into them. They were, it was one of those things like, say, for instance, I'll give you an instance for me. When I was in juvenile,
right,
I read my Bible every day, and I was committed. In my mind, I was committed and wanted to do right. Yeah. I got out after 30 days. I was right back with it. So right. it didn't sink deep inside like what the scriptures tell us to do. We have to let the word of God sink deep in. It has to reach the kidneys, which is deep in your body.
Right.
So if we don't do that, then we're in trouble. And like I've said before, there's an elder in our congregation that says if you turn your back on Jehovah, you're face to face with the devil, and he's going to beat you like a drum.
Right.
Because he's had thousands of years to practice on us.
Right.
So he's ready and willing to beat you down.
Yeah. But I've known some people, man, and I get what you're saying. I think that most people are sincere in their effort. You know what I'm saying? When they're striving for the Most High. I just don't think that, you know, everybody that has gotten out that has made a mistake, I don't think they didn't get it. I just don't think that they had a practical way to apply what they've learned from the Word. You know what I mean? And in here, not to be critical of anybody in here that defines the Most High, I just think that in here, we don't have those issues that come up where we can apply what we've learned in the Bible. You feel what I'm saying? Whatever religious material that we read. But out there, you have all of these temptations and things going on. And if you haven't practiced what you preaching now, you stray. That doesn't mean that they didn't believe in what they were saying when they were in prison.
No, I'm not saying not. I'm not saying that they didn't believe it. I'm just saying it didn't sink deep. It didn't get rooted. It didn't get deeply rooted. It was if you're deeply rooted in what you know to be the truth, a strong storm is not going to knock over a deeply rooted tree. So we need to have our roots deep in what we know to be the truth. If they're not, they're going to come up. It's going to fall over. So because we're going to have a lot of pressures because we got a strike against us coming out of here, at being a convicted felon, and so with that one strike, it's going to be hard to get a job for some people. It's going to be hard to get a place to live for some people, and you can't let that hold you down.
Right.
You got to move forward. So that commitment that you've made to God is you have to have that deep commitment. Because I'm a firm believer in the first thing that you do when you get out is what you're going to continue to do.
So what you do in practice, you're going to do in the game too. I believe that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I get that. Another example of the way I see things now is as far as being fully committed. You have to be so committed to change that no matter what happens out there, crime cannot be an option for you. Hurting another human being cannot be an option for you, right? But how do you get to that point? I always say that, that's what I believe, that's what I feel. But giving somebody examples, of how to get there, that's why I have a hard time, because I know what I feel, I know what I believe, but I haven't been confronted with those issues where I can actually put that into play out there. Now, let me say that. Now that I say that, I have to go back on that a little bit. I've had situations in here where I could have gotten some drugs, gotten a cell phone, tobacco, whatever. You feel I could have still gotten involved in things while I've been in prison these last few years. And that opportunity, when it came to me, I decided that it was more important for me not to do that. You feel what I'm saying? To stand on what I say I believe now, to stand in that gap and say, look, might be enticing, not for me. It's against the rules. I don't see anything, in my opinion, wrong with having a cell phone because it's a legal thing to have out there. Everybody's got them on the street. But while I'm in prison, they say that it's illegal for me, being in blue, to have it. So I got to abide by that. You know what I mean? So I think that you have to be fully committed to the change that you're going to talk about. You're going to be out there in here. What you do in practice, you do in the game. Do you have any examples like that you would like to share where you may have been tempted in here? Because I don't want people to think that, because we've said that we're going in a different direction, that we don't deal with those issues every day. You know what I'm saying?
Of course I've had the temptations. I have the temptations all the time. You have people come up that are in the world to say, man, you don't have a few years left. Anyways, you're out there outside the fence. You could do this or do that, and you can make $1,500 a day.
Right. Let me interrupt you real quick. What he means by outside the fence, he works outside the fence, so I just want people to understand what that means. Go ahead.
Yeah. So people come to you with that temptation of the money. So, but you have to think about it. The love of money is the root of all evil. So I don't need that money because it's not going to be gained properly
in a proper way.
So I'm not trying to get that money. It's not going to do me any good.
So we do deal with temptations every day. You just got to think about it. You know what I mean? But I just wanted people to hear, what we mean when we talk about going all in. I'm a firm believer. I mean this. There's no reason that I can imagine right now that I would even commit another crime. You feel what I'm saying? Intentionally. I'm not going to let somebody hurt me. You feel what I'm saying? But there's not going to be an issue for me committing a crime intentionally, just going out and saying I'm doing A, B, or C. I've always said these last few years, right, that I don't want anybody to hurt me, but I don't want to ever be put in a position where I have to be involved in taking another person's life. And if the situation ever does come up, I hope that I'm strong enough to let it be me rather than them. You feel me? I don't want to die. I'm not in a rush to die. Don't get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? But I'm that committed to the change that I have taken on. I'm that committed to it. And I want people to understand that, it's not an easy road, but it's not as difficult as some would have you believe. And when you decide that you do want to change, you have to go all in. Now, let's touch on one more thing before we wrap this episode up. When it comes to going all in, I also think about the family support that you have to have. Because a lot of family members out there, they hear us all the time, people in prison, all the time saying, I'm not doing this no more, I'm going to get out and I'm going to go get a job and I'm going to do good, this and that. But, the family support is not there. So what do you tell somebody that might be waiting on their loved one to come home? What do you want to say to them? Do you have anything that you would like to say to them as far as their family support and how they can help that individual that's saying that they're going to go all in? What would you have to say to them?
Only thing I can say is the proof is in the pudding. If that person has made the necessary changes while they were in prison, the family should support that person.
And how do you know it? Man, wait a minute. You said necessary changes. How do you know? What are the necessary changes?
Well, if a man's not in here getting write-ups, if your man's not in here doing the drugs, or if they're not calling home asking for money every 5 days and this and that, then and if that's what the person used to do in the past, then
some change.
It's something that's changed.
Yeah,
something has changed.
Right.
Because for a long time I was like, I said, Mom, why aren't you helping me get out of here? She said, I didn't help you get in here. So she said, I was like, for real, that's what it is. She said, that
hardcore.
Yeah. So but her thing was that her prayer was that God always keeps me safe. She said, well, I might need to change my prayer now because my prayer needs to be for you to get home, because I see that you've done what you needed to do to make the change. Because I've made the statement before, like I said, when I was in juvenile, I don't want to do this or that, blah blah blah, and get out and do the same dumb thing.
Right.
So why spend money trying to get me out of here when I was going to get out and do the same thing?
The same thing.
But before she passed, she knew that I was totally committed to that life, to the life that I said that I was going to live, to being a pro-social citizen, and that I won't have any more victims.
Right.
For me, I won't do it anymore. And there's no way in the world that I'm going to subject myself to this again.
Right.
Never.
I get that too. Or victims, not wanting to create victims.
Yeah.
Well, dig that, man. Now, well, with that, I'm going to wrap this episode up. I really appreciate you being here today. I really appreciate y'all out there for listening. Like I say, at all times, I really appreciate the support that you're giving me. If you got any messages or comments, hey, hit that message button and leave us a comment on there so we can hear what you got to say about it. I really appreciate that. And look here, y'all, check me out now. In about a month or so, my YouTube page is going to be popping, so I need you to get there. I need you to get there now. All right? This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, the crime critic. Peace, y'all.